to Costa Rica. Costa Rica is now one of the wealthiest countries in Central America, and that's due a lot to coffee, reaching to one point about 90% of its total exports. And now there are over 130,000 farmers, and of these there are a lot of micro mills. We're about to head up into the hills and see what quality there is within the creme de la creme of these micro mills.
Coffee life in Costa Rica started in 1843 when the English captain William Le Lacheur guaranteed coffee exports to Europe, making himself and Costa Rica very wealthy. For many years, Costa Rica was a large producer of commercially blended coffees, which meant that some of the best origin crops were lost in the mix. Today, the Costa Rican government has outlawed the growing of the inferior Robusta species and only allowed the Arabica to be farmed. This has led to a huge expansion in micro mills, where farmers have taken the process away from the large export mills and are doing it on their own. Costa Rica is leading the world in its micro-milling revolution, in which farmers reap higher financial rewards for their crops and specialty roasters like me get high-altitude grown, traceable Arabica varietals. My Costa Rican coffee trail begins in San Jose and then visiting plantations in the Tazu region and later to the remote region of La Amistad International Park, up on the border of Panama. My first stop was Exclusive Coffees in San Jose. Operating much like a cellar door winery, they organise visits to the plantations to meet the growers, taste the product, and then purchase.
What we do as Exclusive Coffees is bring boutique producers to the table together with boutique roasters just like Toby's Coffee. Coffee has been a key exporting product since the beginning of the past century. When coffee arrived here back in the early 1800s, it arrived as an ornamental plant. And this Spanish priest, Felix Velarde, distributed the seeds in the Central Valley, and that's how coffee started to produce. It became the motor of the economy for over 150 years. Around coffee, all the economics, all the education, all the health system, and in fact the Costa Rican culture and values were developed around coffee. And nowadays, coffee in Costa Rica, because of the high social tax we have and an environmental tax, has become more and more an expensive crop to grow, to produce, and to process. So due to the New York City coffee crisis back in the 96, 97, 98, coffee has become and has been developed through micro mills now, and there's a micro mill revolution, meaning that small producers are adding value to their cherries, processing them their own cherries in their houses and their farms. Really similar to the micro roaster revolution worldwide.
Francisco organised a tour of the Tazu region, where some of Costa Rica's finest plantations are situated. First on the list was Rio Huarco, a family-owned farm dating back to the early 1900s. Also on the farm is a fantastic coffee museum where displays of antique coffee processing machinery and historical artefacts of the region can be seen.
We probably have at least 10 different microclimates because we're on each side of the hill and on the front and back, and in between those there's some hills. There's a very windy area up on the top, and the fog comes down to a certain level. It's very seldom foggy here, but up at the top you get a lot of fog. It makes really good coffee, but you don't get a lot of production.
Right.
But the microclimates vary a lot. It's very interesting because some of the coffee from here has, the chocolatey type of a flavor, and there's the fruit flavor from up on the top, and it varies. Of course, it varies on the cupper too, because they call them different things, even though in theory there's a standard, right? But nice coffee.
And you won in 2008 the Cup of Excellence?
Yes. And we won the Cup of Excellence with, it was a good coffee, but we just took one of our samples. We didn't hand pick it. Most of the Cup of Excellence is totally hand picked.
Another great micro mill in the Tazu region is the Don Mayo plantation, just a stone's throw from Rio Hawko. I'm here with Don Mayo owner Hector and his daughter Maria. Don Mayo are also Cup of Excellence Award winners, with their farm, Baja Vista, taking the award in 2009, and like Rio Hawko, all the coffee is hand-picked.
So even though some greens fall in here, through the processing later in the mill, they will get taken out, either as floaters or sinkers, some of the defects. So there's a sinker. And of course the leaves get cleaned as well. But it's impossible for this guy. As you can see how nimble his fingers must be to pick all the right cherries. There are still a lot of greens that just naturally fall in the bucket as well.
Don Mayo employs the environmentally friendly honey method when drying their premium crops. In some cases, the farmer may choose to leave all of the mucilage fully attached to the parchment seed, while other farmers take the percentage off. They are then moved to elevated drying beds, and in the case of Don Mayo, are then finished drying on patios.
The first 2 days or 3 days is better in the parihuelas, and then for finish in the patios. But it's because if you put honey the first day in the concrete, they get dirty.
Okay.
That's why it's better for the honey 2 or 3 days in the parihuelas.
Okay, so the dirt from the patio could infect the coffee.
Yes.
So, but once it's dried partially, then you could lay it down here on the patio and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as for the wash coffee, so you still put the wash coffee on the parihuelas as well?
Yes, when we don't have honey coffee, we put the fully washed coffee in the parihuelas.
Yeah. Good system. I like it. It's all-
Before we left, I wanted to give Hector and Maria a token of our appreciation for having us, and something to remember our visit by. Small coffee producer Tim O'Brien came to Costa Rica as a Peace Corps volunteer in 1994. There was no running water or electricity, and transport was often treacherous. In 2003, he started Saint Martin, a small mill to process the local family-owned coffee.
First several years, very difficult, lost money, trying to get noticed, trying to say, is there something different here? And we were one of the first, I'd say, first 10 micro mills in the country. We were lucky enough to connect with some very forward-thinking roasters, and it turned out that we were producing a quality of coffee that was unknown for this region. A 90-plus coffee, even in small micro lots, was really a rarity, even in the entire country. And just trying to help my friends, it became an obsession, a passion, and we began finding remnant populations of very old varietals that had extremely beautiful cups, and the rest is just kind of history. The farmers here, I remember when many years ago, it was coffee was considered in many ways a poverty crop. Now you see farmers walking with pride, saying, I'm not going to send my son, off to the United States or someplace to work because there's a future here. He wants to grow coffee, but before there was no future, now there is a future. We have an identity.
Our next stop was Finca Cofea Diversa. This estate sits close to La Amistad International Park, the largest natural rainforest reserve in Central America. Gonzalo Hernandez Solis has put together the largest private collection of rare coffee cultivars in the world, with over 200 different varieties.
Montecristo is an old Costa Rican variety. It is a natural cross between Típica and Bourbon. Even though it had an excellent cup quality, it was replaced in the 1940s, 1950s to introduce higher yielding varieties, right? To the point that I'm the only one who has a commercial plot of Montecristo.
And how much less quantity does it produce?
In some cases, maybe to 40% of what a high yielding variety would produce.
Right.
The low yield has an explanation in the architecture of the plant. So you have big space here, and you have a big space here. Conclusion, low yield.
Low yield.
The modern varieties, the high-yielding varieties, you would have another branch here.
Yeah.
It's low,
low.
definitely. But it's worth it.
Yeah.
The quality is there. Here we have our purpurascens variety.
Purpurascens.
That purpurascens is a natural mutation of Bourbon, again. You can see immediately the shape of the plant, the architecture. It's like a pine. Its name, purpurascens, is because of this. The young leaves are purple.
Yeah. They're
Young
not
leaves are
green,
purple.
Yeah, they're purple.
The bean size of this variety is small.
Oh, that's small. That's like a little cranberry.
And the amount of mucilage it has is also less. So it's not too easy to pulp. It has its challenges. Let's come and look at this variety. You're not going to believe this.
Which one is this?
This is Murta. This is tall Murta. This one you see right here is Murta Nana.
It's like a bonsai.
And that one is Murta too. They're sisters. If I get 100 seeds of this plant, I get 100 seeds. I put them to germinate.
Yeah.
30% will be like this.
Yeah.
About 40% would be like that, and the rest would be like that. All the time. If I take the seeds from that one, the same will happen. It's so amazing. That's what I love about this.
Just when I thought I'd seen it all, Gonzalo pulled out the jewel in the crown of his collection, El Genoides. This is the ancestral mother of the Arabica bean. Gonzalez's aim is to achieve a selection of high-quality coffees with differentiation in the cup. And by the looks of it, he's well on his way to achieving that. In Costa Rica, I saw a passion that is often missing in other coffee-producing nations. This proud people and their amazing coffee make for one unforgettable coffee trail.
Cheers.